Here are six 15-year-old Mercedes-Benz models that could either be the best luxury car deal in North America right now, or a financial sinkhole that'll drain your bank account faster than you can say leaking air suspension strut. And trust me, we're going to talk about those air suspension struts in just a little bit. The 2011 model year Mercedes-Benz lineup sits at a fascinating crossroads. These cars are old enough to have depreciated into genuinely affordable territory, but young enough that they still feel modern when you climb inside. We're talking about vehicles that originally stickered for $40, $60, even $100,000, now sitting on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace for a fraction of that. But here's the thing about a cheap Mercedes. There's actually no such thing as a cheap Mercedes. There's only a Mercedes with a low purchase price. The maintenance, the repairs, the parts, that's all stuff someone has to pay for. And on all old Mercedes cars, there's usually plenty of stuff to fix. So today we're breaking down three Mercedes models from the 2011 era that are genuinely worth your money, and three that you should run away from no matter how tempting that price tag looks. The differences between these cars might surprise you, because sometimes the model everyone overlooks turns out to be the smartest buy, and the one that looks like a steal ends up being the most expensive car you've ever owned. Let's start with the winners. First up, and this is the one nobody's going to expect, the 2011 to 2012 Mercedes-Benz GLK 350. The GLK is the overlooked middle child of the Mercedes SUV lineup. It never had the cachet of the ML class, never achieved the mainstream popularity of the later GLC that replaced it. And honestly, that's exactly why it's such a smart buy today. It flew under the radar when it was new, and it's still flying under the radar on the used market, which means prices haven't been inflated by hype. The real story here is what's under the hood, and more importantly, what isn't bolted to the suspension. The GLK 350 runs a naturally aspirated 3.5-liter V6, the M272 in its later, more refined form, paired with Mercedes' proven 7-speed automatic transmission. That combination produces 302 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. This compact SUV hit 60 miles per hour in roughly 6.5 seconds, which was genuinely quick for the segment when these were new, and it still feels adequately fast today. The real genius of the GLK, though, is what Mercedes left out. There's no air suspension, no overly complicated electronic systems waiting to fail. It rides on conventional steel springs like a normal car. It's built on the same platform as the W204 C-Class, which means parts are easy to come by and relatively affordable by Mercedes standards. Because it avoided the complexity that plagues so many Mercedes SUVs, the GLK has developed a reputation as one of the brand's most dependable modern vehicles. Many examples have surpassed 200,000 miles on routine maintenance alone, oil changes, brake pads, transmission fluid services, basically the boring stuff that actually keeps a car alive. If you're looking for a Mercedes SUV that won't punish you for buying it, the GLK 350 is the answer nobody's talking about. Now, the second car on our buy list is going to raise some eyebrows. It's the 2010 to 2011 Mercedes-Benz S550, the W221 generation. An S-Class on the buy list, the car that's practically synonymous with catastrophic depreciation and ruinous repair bills. Normally, you'd be right to be skeptical. The previous generation W220's S-Class was a reliability disaster. Not something you'd even dare to touch with a barge pole. But the B221 is a genuinely different animal, and here's where the model year matters enormously. The 2010 and 2011 S550 models represent the sweet spot of this generation. They got the Phase 2 facelift, so they still look sharp and contemporary even today. More importantly, by 2010, Mercedes had worked through the early production issues that affected the first W221 models from 2006 and 2007. The bugs and issues had been addressed, and the problematic components replaced. Under the hood, you've got the M273 naturally aspirated 5.5-liter V8, and those two words, naturally aspirated, matter enormously. This is before Mercedes switched to twin turbos and direct injection on the S-Class, a change that introduced a whole new category of problems, including cylinder scoring issues. The M273 in its later form, combined with the refined 7-speed automatic, is actually one of the most reliable S-Class powertrains ever produced. There are no common significant problems requiring a complete engine or transmission overhaul on these cars, and that's a remarkable statement for a flagship luxury sedan. Does this mean an S-Class is cheap to own? Absolutely not. Annual maintenance typically runs between $1,500 and $2,500, depending on what needs attention. But here's the calculation worth making. You can buy a 2010 or 2011 S550 today for a fraction of its original price and get a car that still delivers one of the finest driving experiences in the automotive world. That big V8 is silky smooth, the ride quality is extraordinary, and the interior build quality puts many brand new cars to shame. Go in with realistic expectations, budget accordingly, and find a well-maintained example with documented service history, and the B221 S550 becomes one of the most rewarding used luxury cars you can buy. The phrase well-maintained is doing a lot of work there. Always insist on a full diagnostic scan using factory-level tools, Mercedes Star or Zentry systems. And here's a critical tip: perform a cold start listening test. On a fully cold engine, one that's been sitting for 8+ hours, start it up and listen from outside near the front of the engine bay. A rattle lasting 3 or more seconds, or one that returns during initial acceleration, is a red flag worth noting. Record a short video for your mechanic. The third and final recommended buy is the 2012 to 2014 Mercedes-Benz C-Class, the W204 facelift models, specifically the C300 and C350. The W204 C-Class has officially entered its modern classic era, and for good reason. In 2026, it's widely regarded as one of the last analog luxury sedans. There are real buttons for the climate control, the steering has genuine weight and feedback, and you're not fighting a laggy touchscreen to adjust the temperature while merging onto the highway. It's just a car designed to be driven, not to be an iPad on 4 wheels. The year matters here, and this cannot be stressed enough. The facelifted 2012 to 2014 models are the ones you want to look at. By the time this refresh arrived, Mercedes had resolved many of the early production issues that plagued the first W204 cars. The 2012 and later models got the upgraded 7G-tronic Plus transmission, which is smoother, more responsive, and more durable than the earlier one. The interior was freshened up and still looks genuinely premium sitting next to modern cars. The C300 and C350 are particularly robust. The C300's V6 delivers refined, adequate power, while the C350's 3.5-liter V6 produces 302 horsepower and a notably more engaging driving experience. Both benefit from fewer electronic issues than the earlier production models, and both draw from the M272 engine family in its later improved form. There's also an interesting future value angle here. Market data in 2026 shows a surge in interest for this generation, with the C63 AMG variant already being discussed as a future collector car. The standard C300 and C350 won't reach those heights, but rising interest in the platform as a whole tends to support values across the range. Annual maintenance typically runs $700 to $1,500, depending on condition and mileage. Parts availability is excellent, and Mercedes built so many of these that finding a good example isn't difficult. Now let's talk about the 3 models you need to avoid, because this is where things get expensive. First on the avoid list is the 2011 to 2013 Mercedes-Benz C250. From the outside, the C250 looks identical to the C300 and C350 we just recommended. Same body, same interior, same badge on the trunk. Under the hood, though, lives a totally different engine, and that engine is the problem. The C250 uses a 1.8-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, the M271, instead of the V6 found in the C300 and C350. That engine has a well-documented, well-litigated, genuinely serious problem with its camshaft adjusters. Faulty camshaft adjusters produce a rattling noise from the engine, which is about the most terrifying sound you can hear from a car you just bought. This isn't a minor fix. Repairing the issue requires replacing the camshaft adjusters, the timing chain, and the sprockets. Each camshaft actuator alone runs around $700. The tensioner adds another $130, and once you factor in labor and taxes, you're looking at repair bills north of $5,000. Mercedes acknowledged this as a manufacturing defect and extended the warranty on the camshaft adjusters for 2012 to 2015 model years to 10 years and 120,000 miles. Here's the catch, though. By 2026, every single one of these cars is well past that 10-year warranty extension, so you're pretty much on your own. Car Complaints ranks the 2012 C250 as one of the worst Mercedes models you can buy,
and the 2013 isn't far behind. The frustrating part is that this car shares a showroom and a body with some of the best used Mercedes available. It's a trap, and it's a convincing one. If you're looking at a W204 C-Class and it says C250 on the back, keep walking. Second on the avoid list is the 2011 Mercedes-Benz ML350. The M-Class has always been one of Mercedes' best-selling models in North America, and on paper the 2011 ML350 looks like a great deal. A big, comfortable SUV with that smooth 3.5-liter V6 and available 4MATIC all-wheel drive. The reality is quite different. The 2011 model year is specifically flagged as one of the worst years for the M-Class, generating over 100 complaints from owners within its first year of production. The issues read like a greatest hits album of Mercedes problems: electrical malfunctions, faulty window regulators, air suspension systems failing and costing thousands of dollars to repair, leaking valve covers, worn engine mounts, transmission hesitation, and the list goes on and on forever. What makes the 2011 ML350 particularly frustrating is that the maintenance costs often exceeded those of more premium models in the lineup. You're paying S-Class repair bills for a vehicle marketed as a dependable family SUV. Small problems cascade into expensive ones, and the average annual maintenance of around $1,000 doesn't tell the full story. The spikes are what get you. One bad air suspension strut costs over $1,000 on its own, and these cars have 4 of them. If you want a Mercedes SUV from this era, go back to the GLK 350. It's the smarter buy in every possible way. The third car to avoid is the 2011 Mercedes-Benz R-Class, the R350. The R-Class is one of the strangest vehicles Mercedes ever built. It's not really a minivan, not really a wagon, and not really an SUV either. Mercedes themselves couldn't even figure out what it was, and buyers couldn't either, which is why so few were sold, and why survivors are now ridiculously cheap on the used market. But watch out, because that low price is a trap. The R350 shares the M272 V6 with several other Mercedes models, but in the R-Class application, that engine is paired with one of the most problematic vehicle platforms in the lineup. The balance shaft and plastic balance shaft sprocket teeth are known to wear down, which triggers an expensive repair. Timing chain issues that affected early M272 engines are a real concern here. And if a timing chain fails, the pistons can contact the valves and cause catastrophic engine damage, a repair that costs more than the car is worth. The engine isn't even the R-Class's biggest problem. The aromatic air suspension fails regularly, causing uneven ride height and requiring expensive compressor or strut replacements. The electrical system generates all kinds of issues affecting door modules, instrument clusters, and comfort features throughout the car. And then there's an issue specific to the R-Class: cracked or shredded drive shaft flex discs that send heavy vibrations through the center of the vehicle. Catch it too late and you risk damaging the drive shaft center support bearing, the transmission, and the differential simultaneously. One problem becomes 3, and 3 problems become a car that costs more to fix than it's worth. If anyone tries to sell you an R-Class with the BlueTech diesel engine, that's your cue to leave. Pulling all of this together, the pattern here is pretty consistent, and it repeats across almost every generation of Mercedes-Benz. The models that succeed as used cars share mechanical simplicity, proven drivetrains, and an absence of overly complicated systems. The GLK 350 wins because it doesn't have air suspension. The S550 wins because its naturally aspirated V8 is bulletproof compared to the turbocharged engines that replaced it. The W204 C300 and C350 win because their VE6 engines don't carry the camshaft adjuster flaw that makes the 4-cylinder C250 so dangerous. The models that fail, the C250, the ML350, the R-Class, both share a common thread. They combine Mercedes-level parts and labor costs with below-average reliability, which is the worst possible combination in a used car. If you're in the market for a 15-year-old Mercedes, do your homework. Get a pre-purchase inspection from a specialist with factory diagnostic tools, check the service history, and listen to that cold start. And above all, remember that the purchase price is just the entry fee. The real cost of owning a used Mercedes is everything that comes after. If you choose poorly, it'll be the most expensive and headache-generating thing in your life. But as long as you choose wisely, a 15-year-old Mercedes can be one of the most rewarding cars that you'll ever own.
Because after all, a Mercedes is a Mercedes. You just have to remember to budget for unexpected repairs and maintenance costs, before you park one on your driveway.